If you want to improve your sales, it comes down to your mindset, your discovery process, and your sales ability. My name is Gurma Singh. I'm the founder of GTM Academy. I've got over 50 entrepreneurs in my academy, and I've helped multiple six-figure entrepreneurs improve their sales. So I'm pretty confident in my ability to tell you how you can improve your sales process. So today we're going to be covering three things. Firstly, the mindset required to have a good sales ability. Secondly, what you should include within your discovery call process. And third, what we actually do within our sales process. And we're going to be breaking this down step by step, and I'm going to be revealing every secret along the way. And at the very end, I've got one piece of bonus advice that I think is going to be really powerful, so make sure you stick around for that. So the first thing is, when it comes to sales, the first piece of mindset advice that I have is that anyone can sell. Literally anyone that I've ever met in my entire life, if you can speak, if you can talk, if you have the ability to learn, you can sell. It is not exclusive. It's not a gene that you're born with. Anyone in the world can sell. If you are struggling to sell, it's because there's a problem with your product or there's a problem with your ability to sell your product. That's it. Anyone can sell. So if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not a great salesperson, or I'm just never going to be great at sales, that's just not true. You just need to learn a few basic skills. The second mindset shift is that sales and marketing are essentially the same thing. So a lot of the time people say we're doing all this stuff for marketing and all the sales stuff is separate. And it's well, actually it's not, because the whole point of marketing is to get people to buy, which is also the whole point of sales. And the reason why is because people use your marketing as a part of your sales process. In your marketing, you might talk about your experience. In your marketing, you might talk about all these different things that are also relevant within a sales process. When it comes to marketing your business, try and think, okay, if I'm putting this information out there and I wanted someone to buy my stuff, what information would I give? How would I market to maximize my chances that I'm going to get sales off the back of it? Not thinking, I've got to do social media posts, I've got to do awareness ads and all this kind of extra stuff. Make your marketing gel as easily as possible with your actual sales process. The third mindset shift is only sell things you actually believe in. If you sell things that you don't actually think will get your clients results, then you shouldn't be selling them. And you should be finding it difficult to sleep at night if you are. Because when it comes to sales, it's about conviction. It's about believing in what you do. And if you're going to do this over time and you don't want to be a scammer, essentially, then you need to actually have conviction that what you offer is useful. And there's a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs that are starting out that try to sell something that they don't believe in. So please, if you listen to this, stop selling things you don't think are actually going to get people results, that you know are half broken, that you know genuinely don't work. Fix them and sell things that actually do work. You'll feel a lot better about selling them and you'll close more people. And the fourth mindset shift is that sales is about both parties coming to a mutual agreement that they want to go ahead with what you're offering. Most people think that when it comes to sales, because you see all this pushy stuff online, you see all this slimy sales tactics, and it just doesn't work very well. If you're greedy and you want someone's money and you're basically lying to get something across the line, or you're pulling all these tactics, guess what? It's because you're not good enough at what it is that you do. Let that sink in for a second. If you're selling things and you have to use dirty tactics to get someone to buy your stuff, it's because your product or service isn't good and you need to focus on making that better before you actually start selling it. Just before I get into what we include in our discovery call process, I want to share with you the master call log that we use. Now, we actually use this call log to track all of our discovery calls and sales calls. So within this, you can see we've got the date of the discovery call, the lead name, what type of call it is, what was the outcome, who's running it. So if it's myself, if it's Adnan, someone else is running it, then it's all kind of logged. The other things that are important when it comes to discovery calls: who showed up, who's actually qualified, and then did you manage to book them onto a sales call. In this, we actually add some notes and we'll include our proposal and we'll record all of our calls with an AI note taker so that we don't have to write the notes and we can actually go back and review the calls. So I would recommend that you do that too. And then we include that link on the master call log, and then you can see that we just log everything in one place to make things much easier for us. Now, you might be thinking, okay, great, I get that's how you log this stuff, but what do you actually ask within the discovery call process? And this is what we do. You should be able to see that we have 3 phases within our discovery call process. Where are you at now? Where do you want to be and why? Are you ready for support? These are the 3 overarching areas that we discuss within a discovery call. Every business is going to be slightly different, but every business needs this information. When it comes to where they are now, we do B2B coaching. So it's typically kind of like B2C, because a lot of entrepreneurs sometimes are a little bit earlier stage and it might just be a one-man band. But these are the questions that we ask. We ask them what do you offer? Who do you serve? So who's your ICP? What's the vision for the business? Where do you actually want to go? And this is a big one, because when you ask about people's vision, that's what's often going to give you the ammo in the sales call call for you to be able to say, okay, this is the reason why we're going to move ahead today. What's the vision? What are you trying to move towards? Like, because you want to hit 50K a month, think about the vision. You need to ask them, you need to get them to admit to it and dig into that more and more. Find out more details. Find out why the vision is important to them. We also ask people for their revenue. Now, this might seem like, whoa, do people give up their revenue? You will be surprised at what people will give you if you ask for it in a good way and you actually come across as presentable. We run ads, and in the ads, people don't know us. They might have seen us for 30 seconds. They might have just seen an image of us, and we ask them to fill in a couple of forms. And as they're filling in the forms, they'll tell us their revenue. Asking people what their revenue is. We need to know where you currently are if we're going to help you to get to where you want to be. And then we also need to understand, like, what's the average order value? This is important because if we're helping someone to grow their business, we need to know how many sales we need to get them to grow. We need to know what we're actually going to make a difference in terms of their finances for us to be able to sell our services and say, look, this is how much money we think we can make you. Then it's, where do you want to be? So this is the revenue goals that they might have, timelines for them. Why is this goal important to them? What's stopping them from achieving that goal? And then another question we ask them is, what have they already tried? If you're familiar with Alex Hormozy's closer framework, this is one of the things that they do where they say they overview their past experiences. So all within the closer framework is overview the past experiences. We include this as well in terms of, like, where do they want to be? Once we've got this information, we'll move on to the last section. How ready are they for support? Now, we get some people that before even hopping onto this discovery call, we might have called them on the phone, they might have said something in the application, and they might have said specifically, hey, I'm looking for mentorship. I'm looking for this support. I'm looking for accountability. And boom, we already know that that person is ready for support because they're asking for it. But if no one's expressed interest in getting support, this is a part that's really important for us. We ask them, like, all right, how soon do you want to actually make a change? What kind of support are you looking for? Do you want systems? Do you want strategy? Do you want done for you? Do you want done with you? Like, what kind of support do you actually need? And then we also ask them, like, are you the sole decision maker? Do you need to speak to anyone else before you make a decision on what's going to actually help you and move your business forward? By going through all of this within the discovery call process, it allows us to very comfortably and confidently put them onto a proposal call. Someone that might also ask, and this is just a bonus side thing, if someone says, like, okay, but can you give me, like, a range of what the price might be? We say, like, okay, we burst them first. We say, like, it's not the cheapest, yeah? It is a little bit on the expensive side. However, it is within this price range. And we just pick whatever number we want to think of as high, and then we just say it's a little bit below this. Here's the last bit of advice I'm going to give you on your discovery call. Most people think they're bad at sales because they're bad at the discovery call process. They start taking on underqualified people. They start trying to sell without asking the right questions. And as a result, people aren't interested in their services. And it's not because what you offer isn't good. It's because you haven't done the due diligence to figure out, is this person qualified for our service? And what information can I actually get from them? So most people lose out on sales because they do this wrong. The reason why I've got over a 50% close rate at the moment is because I understand my prospects better than they understand themselves. By the end of the call, I know more about their business, what needs to be changed, what we need to do moving forward, why things aren't working, than they do. And at the end of that session, just talking about things often gets a lot off their chest, and they're like, right, okay, I feel like I have clarity just by speaking to you, so I want to speak to you more, because if I speak to you more, I'm going to get even more clarity, and hopefully these issues are going to solve themselves. That's the discovery call process. I'm sure you want to know what the sales call process is. So similarly, within the sales call process, we have a sales call log, which is going to be, the date, the lead name, any notes, what the outcome was, the services that they were interested in, who it's owned by, and then we do checkboxes. What's the show up rate? What's the qualified rate? How many people do we actually offer? So let's say I get 100 people onto a sales call, but I only offer 80 of them. Is that because I'm not confident with offering the last people? Is it because they weren't qualified? Just because someone hopped onto a sales call doesn't mean that you actually pitched your service to them, okay? So how many people did I actually offer? I remember when I first started out, I had about 10 sales calls and I had about one offer because I was so uncertain about how to offer people. But then when I could see the data, I could then quickly make that adjustment and say, okay, I don't know how to offer people. And that's the problem that I need to fix. That's the bottleneck and constraint. So, and then after offer, you can say how many people did you close, and then cash collected. Not just did they say yes, that's all good. How much money did they transfer you on the call? And I mean on the call, not after the call, an hour later, 2 hours later, 10 hours later, 3 years later. I mean literally on the call. Hey, perfect, you want to go ahead? Amazing, here's a Stripe link. If you get that paid, that'd be perfect. Or we'll book in another call where you can actually make the payment. And then that I would consider as another sales call. And you might be saying that thinking, okay, great, I get that, G, but what do you actually cover in the sales call? Don't worry, I got you. what I'm going to go through now is our sales call process in terms of the slides that we actually use, because yes, we use slides, okay? Like we use a presentation to run through what we actually are going to cover on the sales call. I'm going to run through this fairly quickly, so brace yourself and pay attention. First thing is we say what the business name is, and then we say overview. So people feel like this is actually for them and not just a generic, hey, this is what GTM Academy does. Because no one cares about what you do, they care about what's going on with them and their life. Then the next thing, we have 2 to 3 sentences that hook their attention and be like, these guys get where I'm going. So we say, hey, we know that your vision is to get to 50K a month within the next 6 months, and you're struggling with optimizing your team because they're not listening to you for X, Y, and Z reasons. And immediately people are like, yes, this is exactly the problem that I need to have solved. And if people aren't having this solved and they're not resonating with the first page, the rest of the page is probably going to flop anyways. So you should be able to gauge someone's interest from the first section. Next thing that we do is we just list, and usually we'll have about 8 to 10 challenges that we can identify on the sales call. Next thing is that we list all of their challenges so that they feel heard, they feel understood, they know why they need to take action. And also, if the last time you spoke with someone on the discovery call was a week ago, and now you're speaking with them again, then you need to be able to get them back into that state of, I'm struggling, I need some help, so that they're more likely to buy. So we go through the challenges, and then that feels pretty negative. But we want to show that we actually genuinely can see potential, because that's why we want to work with them. So then we outline the current opportunities. And we do the same. 8 to 10 positive opportunities. We could do this. We could fix this. These are the good things. This is what you're already doing right. Everybody loves a pat on the back. Give them that feeling that they're doing a lot right, because they probably are. And they might need that support from you. And then we move on to what the goal is. Again, 2 to 3 sentences. This could sometimes just be 1 sentence, but we outline exactly what the client wants. Exactly what do you want? Because it means that we're on the same page now. And every time I'm going through one of these slides, I'm asking, is that right? Is that all clear? Am I getting this right? Because I want to make sure that I understand your situation. Continuing, we go through the goals, then we go through the commitment, okay? How much time do they have available to commit to what we're doing? Can they actually commit to it? How soon can they get started? We want to make sure that we're not just trying to pitch a service and people are like, oh, well, actually, your service makes complete sense. However, I don't have the time and I don't want to start this until next year. It's like, great, why am I going to offer you something if you're not ready to hear an offer? So we understand their commitment, and we just double check that they do want to do something very soon and they are willing to actually put in time and effort to solve this problem. And then the next thing we do is return on investment. We're selling business to business. Every single business in the world wants to know how whatever you're offering is going to make them more money. If you don't spell it out for them, why would they believe that anything is a worthwhile investment? You need to show them exactly where their money is going and what they're going to get back from it. The way that we do this is by figuring out what their average order value is, and we figure out what do we expect the change in sales to be. Okay, do we expect more leads to come through? If so, what's the average close rate and things like that. Then we'd say, okay, you've got 20 clients, your average order value is going to double with the work that we're going to do, which is going to result in this, and we expect that within 3 months. This is where people feel at ease, because they're like, right, I get how what they're doing is going to make me money. After we go through the return on investment, we go through the plan of work. So we set the expectations. Look, this is what we'd like to do with you. This is how it's going to work. This is the process that we're going to take you through. How does this sound? We go through the plan of work and say, okay, look, at this stage, if you want to go ahead with the plan of work, would you be happy with that? Would you want to go ahead with the plan of work? Is there anything on here that you don't feel comfortable with or you wouldn't like to try? They'll be like, no, everything seems good. That's typically the answer I get. Sometimes people will be like, oh, well, what does this mean? Or how do we do this? Or like, how much would you expect us to spend on ads? Or, other things, bits and pieces. And then once they are happy with the plan of work, once they say that, yes, this is correct, then we move on to the investment. All right, perfect. Well, I'd love to get started with you. Sometimes a little tactic that I'll do is I'll say like, what we can do is, if you did want to get started straight away, would you be happy to book in a call for Monday? And this is before I presented the price. But I'll just ask them like, okay, if we were to get started, would Monday be a good day for you? And they'll be like, oh, Mondays typically aren't, but I could do Tuesdays. All right, Tuesdays at 3, yeah? Like, all right, perfect. Well, move on to the next thing, and I say, for investment, all right, well, if you want to go ahead with this plan of work, the investment it's going to be this much if you want to go through this plan of work. And what I do is I reiterate all the different tasks that we're going to do. I tell them like, this is the process that we're going to go through together. And I say like, this is our mission. Our mission is to turn your business into, and then I insert the dream outcome. So they feel heard, they feel understood, and they can see that the investment is directly related to the thing that they want. As they see the price, typically they'll feel overwhelmed and like, oh my God, what do I do? And then boom, we hit them with, by the way, just so you know, all services come with a 30-day money back guarantee. I think partially it's like a legal thing where you have to offer a guarantee with your services of like money back, because there's a lot of things out there which You know, if you buy something from Amazon, you're not happy with it, legally as customers, we have a right to a return, as far as I'm aware. Then the way that we actually sell to them is we use something called the assumptive clause. So we say, all right, if you're happy with this, then what we could do is we could book in that meeting on Tuesday at 3:30. Is there any reason why you wouldn't like to get started today? That might be a line that I use. I don't actually have a set line that I use. I just kind of go off the vibe of the call. If I see someone's reaction is like, ooh, or if I see someone's like a little bit like, oh, okay, I'll just play on that and be like, all right, seems like you're quite happy with the price. Am I reading that right? And they'll just be like, yeah, actually, that's like much more reasonable than I thought. And then if they're like wincing at it a little bit, then I could be like, okay, it seems like it looks a little bit too expensive for you at the moment. Is that right? We can play around with that. And then, like I said, I use the assumptive clause 9 times out of 10. Where I say, all right, well, I'd love to get started with you. If you're happy with that, we could get started from next week. How does that sound? And then after that, we then walk them through the next steps, which we make really clear. And then we finally go through what's included. If they ask, we actually just have that slide ready, just in case we need to run through that as well. That's the way that we go through this process. If there's any questions that you have about this, then just drop a comment. Let me know, and I'd love to answer them because I love the sales process that we have. It's really effective, and if it helps you, I'd love it to like actually just make your life easier. The last piece of advice that I'm going to leave you with, a little secret, is that conviction is everything. If you genuinely believe in what you sell, people will buy it because they'll be able to see it in your eyes. They'll be able to see the way you talk about it. And as a result, I've had people saying like, look, G, you back yourself so much. And I've had people pay me $5,000 because they've said, look, G, I'm not 100% sure if this works, but I can see you really believe in it. You trust in it. You're offering a guarantee. As a result, I'm willing to take the risk. So my advice is always back yourself. Whatever happens, always believe in your ability to actually make the sale. Always believe in your ability to deliver on the service, because the second you start doubting yourself, clients can smell that like bloodhounds. So that's it from me. That's my entire sales call process, including the discovery stuff and the mindset things. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate that this is me being quite open and vulnerable and showing you guys all the behind the curtain stuff. So if you do find this useful or you have someone else that you think might find this useful, then please do send this video to them so that they can make the most of it as well. But that's it from me, and I will catch you guys on the next episode of the IWIN series.